We got three separate news topics today around the NBA, and we're going to start in Portland with Shaedon Sharpe, as he's now expected to miss 6 months with a torn meniscus, which is unfortunate after what could be looked at as a breakout season a lot of ways for him last season. Then we're going to head over to Dallas, where there's still reportedly a lot of teams monitoring the Kyrie Irving situation. Then lastly, the Golden State Warriors add more depth with Brandon Williams to a one-year deal. We're going to talk about all this plus more right after this.
Welcome to the number one place for your daily basketball news and analysis, NBA Central.
What's going on, basketball fans? Welcome to another episode of the Full Court Podcast. My name is Haize, but more importantly, you guys can follow us at the Full Court YT on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that said, let's go into this content for today, y'all. So Shaedon Sharpe is now out 6 months. And it could end up being even longer than that. With the season, ending or season kind of blowing their injury with the torn meniscus. And the question now becomes that many people are asking is, how much does this hurt the Portland Trailblazers? The Portland Trailblazers are already in yet another transition. After last year, their head coach, Chauncey Billups, of course, with his court thing, was not able to coach the team all season long, which then meant Thiago Splitter took over. Thiago's now moved over to my Chicago Bulls. And now the Portland Trailblazers have Michael Nori as their head coach, which is on a 360 deal for NBA coaches. Is the most weird coaching contract structure that we've ever seen. So Shaedon Sharpe is now going to be sitting out this season, a large chunk of the season, if not missed, like I said, the entirety of the year. And this sucks. Shaedon Sharpe, who also missed time last year, right? So he's no stranger to missing time, unfortunately. But this is still a very young kid at only 23 years old is Shaedon Sharpe. And it's supposed to be, hasn't even entered what should be the prime of his career. He's coming off a season where he averaged 20.8 points per game, 4.3 rebounds, 45% shooting from the field, to go along with 33% shooting from three, which is the second highest mark of his career, if I'm not mistaken. But he also averaged, a steal per game, still and a half per game as well. And so many people were hoping that Shaedon Sharpe was going to really take this and go a step further, this upcoming year. And unfortunately, that's just not going to be there now for him. And it's unfortunate. Shaedon Sharpe as well in the postseason only averaged 7.2 points per game, playing 13 minutes in 5 games for the Portland Trailblazers. So the question now becomes about how big is this a blow? And in a lot of ways, maybe the Portland Trailblazers are better ready to withstand that because of all the guards that they have on this roster. Now, mostly their point guards. We're probably going to play some people out of position. I do think that the athleticism, the scoring explosion that he gave them as well. It's there, but, Shaedon Sharpe brings something different than the rest of the guards that they have here, is that vertical element to his game. And 6 months is the majority of the season. It is the majority of the season, right? And his extension also begins this season, which also makes the timing rough, right? So Portland is already, before the season started, has lost one of its most important young players that you're trying to develop, you're trying to continue to develop and hope that's going to help take your team a bit further. And it sucks. But like I said, if you're looking at any type of silver lining here, is that they have tons of guards. So, now do you just move Dame to the 2? You play him and Ja Morant as the 1 and the 2. You have Kamara there at the 3, who's a really solid two-way player. Denny at the 4, Donovan Clingan at the 5, right? That's what it seems like it's going to be. Then you're bringing Scoot Henderson and Jrue Holiday off the bench as well. So, you have redundancy already built into your roster as far as bench. And if Ja Morant does get back to his former self, you may not miss the scoring punch, right? So it's a manageable setback for them. You got Ja, you got Dame, you got Jrue Holiday, Scoot, whatever happens with him. So you got players that can absorb the usage rate of Shaedon Sharpe, at least right now. They don't have the exact same athleticism and verticality that Shaedon Sharpe brings to the team, but I do think you can use this time now to evaluate other players and make a decision. Portland had a rotation problem before the injury. Now it has a different problem, and that's replacing the style of play of Shaedon Sharpe, but it is, right? So, and you can still make a case that, hey, maybe Portland's backcourt is still too crowded, right? It's still crowded. I do think it simplifies some things. Ja Morant gets more control. His ability to put pressure downhill on teams gets a little bit more needed in regards to that. Dame Lillard's probably going to get cleaner looks and opportunities as well. Jrue can still focus on defense and the connective play that he brings there. And so now you have kind of fewer mouths to feed. And if Scoot Henderson and the scoring that we saw from him in the playoffs actually turns around and pays off to them in the entirety of the season, you could have another player that can replace some of those things that it does. But it does remove their best athletic wing scorer, right? And that's just my personal opinion. Shaedon Sharpe isn't just another wing on this team or just another guard. He gave that burst, those type of things that he's there. Dame and Jrue are older, right? Ja has his own availability questions, but he also could be athletic if he wants to get back to dunking and stop trying to prove a point. And so, like, maybe he can provide some of that athletic pressure again. Scoot Henderson has an opportunity to do that. So we'll see, right? I think at this point now, the question that really is there for the Portland Trailblazers is, are they going to lean development? Are they going to lean veteran? Like, which way are they going to go? Ja and Dame are ready to win now, as long with Jrue Holiday. Those are win now players, right? And the Blazers, they should try to compete. That's, again, the NBA, because the tanking isn't as valuable as what it was before. Everybody should. And that's it, right? So now when you look at, but keeping the development focus in it, I think that's what you look at. You have so many young players here that still are just beginning to scratch the surface of who they can be as players. Donovan Clingan is still a very young player. Denny Avila, I wouldn't necessarily call him young, but he had a breakout season last year as well, right? Kamara is another player as well at 26 years old, but is still steadily improving. Scoot is a young player that you need to develop as well. And we're this. What happens to Yang Hansen this season? Like, does he actually play, a big role this season? So we'll see what the Portland Trailblazers do. They're an interesting team, especially based off how last season went for them, but we'll see. All right, moving on from that to Kyrie Irving. Reportedly, there are still teams that are monitoring the Kyrie Irving situation. This comes from Mark Stein of the Stein Line, who says this. Rival teams are keeping close tabs on Kyrie Irving's situation, with Dallas Mavericks, according to Mark Stein. Irving missed last season due to a torn ACL. The Mavs previously stated that they are not interested in trading Irving, with Masai Ujiri discussing how the point guard will fit with Cooper Flagg. Mavs assistant Phil Handy, leaving for the Sixers, was seen as a small yet noticeable factor for teams potentially interested in Irving. Stein also added that the Mavs let go of Vice President in Strategy of Analytics Andrew Baker and Director of Pro Personnel as well earlier this month. So, listen, teams are right to keep, because while the Mavs are doing what they need to do and saying that they see Kyrie fitting Cooper Flagg, that they see the value of having him there, because guess what? If they came out and said, yeah, we don't know what's going to happen with Kyrie, Kyrie that may not fit with Coop, we could be looking to move him or things like that, the value immediately tanks if you were going to say that. So, but again, they could be right. Like, having veterans around players that help support the development, don't necessarily get in the way, is a possibility. They have a lot of veteran pieces still on this team. The Mavericks could be one of those teams that decide to blow it up at the trade deadline as far as moving some of their older pieces like a Gafford and PJ Washington, some players like that. And see, I think that this matters, though, because teams monitor situations because they believe that there's a chance that it could blow out, right? And so with Dallas rebuilding around Cooper Flagg, there's always a chance that veterans could get moved, especially if the Mavs underperform. The conversation is just going to get louder, and you may get offered a deal that you just feel you can't pass up if you're the Dallas Mavericks. But it still also could be wishful thinking. To be fair, they've shown no interest in trading Kyrie Irving. Masai Ujiri is usually a pretty straight shooter, but we know he's also an opportunist, and I don't mean that in a bad way. He uses every opportunity he can to improve his team or the direction and vision he has for that team, and we'll see. Kyrie Irving could be the perfect bridge player for this team and not necessarily be a player that gets in the way of their timeline, but helps bridge it, take some pressure off Cooper Flagg, and those type of things as Cooper develops into the player that you're going to ultimately build around. He can still push the pace. He provides spacing. The late game offense, he's a darling in that part of it as well. And young stars benefit from veteran guards. That's just the reality of it. When you have a veteran guard for a young player on the team, that's where they benefit. That's where they can grow, all that type of stuff. And you don't want to avoid that. And so, these little things of bigger signs that Dallas could be moving on in a different direction. Like, yeah, that's a sign of a franchise that has changed ownership over the last few years. They're changing direction with a new GM. I wouldn't necessarily overstate what happens in the front office and with some of these positions. We'll know once the Dallas Mavericks, if they really shift their timeline or shift their direction, because if they do make a series of moves with Kyrie Irving, Darren Gafford, PJ Washington, guys like that, then that shows that they're focused on asset accumulation and that they feel like they've seen enough from Cooper to start going ahead and building around him right now, and they feel he's ready for that. And not every staff move as well as some signal, something deeper going on in basketball. I think that's the part that you also have to look at. So the Mavs are going to be, interesting to watch. They're going to be a fun team. I like a lot of the pieces on their roster. Hopefully a lot of those guys like Derek Lively is able to stay healthy so we can kind of get even more kind of data on those guys with Cooper Flagg. And we'll see what the future holds there, because, Coop is the future of that Dallas Mavericks team. what comes of that future and how quickly they start cashing in on that future, that depends on his development and as well as the pieces around him. All right, let's get into the last topic for today. The Golden State Warriors made an acquisition today, which makes a lot of sense. I actually like this a lot. They have signed free agent guard Brandon Williams on a 1-year, $2.6 million deal. Last year in Dallas, actually, he averaged 13 points, 3.9 assists on 22 minutes per night and played 66 games. And so here's the thing. This is an interesting shot here for the Golden State Warriors because they're a team that they need depth. They need an extra scoring punch. They need some extra shooting. And Brandon Williams can absolutely bring that for this team. And I don't necessarily hate this. I don't hate this at all. This is a kid that's been in the league since 2021. He's averaged double digits twice in his career. His first year, his rookie year at 12.9 for Portland, playing only 24 games. And then last season with Dallas playing 66 games, right? So this is a guy that's also a career 28% three-point shooter. But last season he shot 23%. The season before that he shot 40 on less than 2 attempts per game, though. But you added another player here that provides some upside for a team that doesn't really have a lot of it. And you see, I think that this could be a sneaky good signing, right? I think when you look at the production, it gives the Golden State Warriors another ball handler. The contract is a very low-risk contract, and the Warriors need as many players on their roster that can create, if they can, to help stabilize in those non-Steph Curry minutes. Now, there's a way that you can also look at this and say this is just a depth signing, right? He's going to have to earn a rotational role on this team. The Warriors have bigger questions that they need to find answers to than Brandon Williams is going to fit there. But I like the signing overall for him. And, you take a shot. Where the Golden State Warriors are right now, you might as well take a shot on young players that you think can provide some of the things you're missing to this team. Why the hell not? Why sit around on your hands and not try to do anything? So we'll see what happens there. But that's the news roundup. That's the shoot around for today. Let me know what you guys think on every topic down below, man. Make sure you guys like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell so you never miss an episode or an upload. You can follow us at the Full Court YT. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, NBA Central Show at gmail.com. And then lastly, if you want to leave a text message and or voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-270-2799. We're the #1 spot for everything basketball related. And I'll catch you guys the next time I feel like making a video. Probably tomorrow. Peace, y'all.
Been a presentation of the Breaks Media.